good? Welcome to the Post Out Podcast presented by Maliway. It's your boy Malik. Thanks for tuning in. What's good, folks? I know it's been a minute. I got to step it up with my content release. It's been crazy with work. Obviously, we're all dealing with the crisis. Some of us are essential workers, so even though I'm not out there, putting my life on the line. I'm lucky and blessed enough to still have a job, right? So I'm trying to manage, but I got to step it up with the releases. But yeah, I'm here now. I'm trying to, I'll give you guys a little bit of NBA updates, see what's popping out there in the world. Let's go through it really quickly. So first and foremost on my list, what is it now? May 21st, 2020. So time seems like it's flying by. The NBA obviously is trying to find solutions and trying to find a way to get back, some of the revenue that they've been losing because of the crisis, right? So while we're hearing that practice facilities are, have been, reopened in certain states and provinces, obviously with the Raptors. So the Raptors being one of them. Obviously, people still have to practice social distancing. So my opinion on that is, that's a good thing. Obviously, guys, I think we're the measures that have been put in place so that guys can actually go in with a limited amount of people, obviously to be allowed. But at least guys can start, putting some work in, and obviously, in the places where they're allowing this to happen, it's going to help the guys prepare for the eventuality of a possible season. There's also some news that came out, obviously, with Adam Silver saying that if they do start up the season again, they want guys or they want teams to finish off at least 70 games. So obviously, there's a lot involved with that. There's some TV contracts there that or some TV contract goals rather that they're trying to achieve. So 70 seems to be the sweet spot. The other excuse is obviously they want guys to get some rep in, or a lot of reps in. Actually, they don't want to have guys go straight into the playoff format, but they haven't refuted that out of the realm of possibility, right? So from what I'm hearing, they're hoping for training camp to maybe start up mid-June, and then maybe the season. A couple games of the season starting back in mid-July, and then once they hit 70 games, they can start the playoffs, right? But obviously, that's permitting, the evolution of the health crisis, right? And if they can't do that, then the last resort would be for them to start in mid-August, and then they would have to go directly into the playoffs. But until then, it seems like there's some slow and steady progress. Most places, across North America, they're starting to see some improvements. Not as many reported cases every day, but we're not there yet. It's there's still a lot to learn about the virus. So I think the idea for the NBA is to hold the games in Orlando and in Vegas. Those are the two preferable spots, so they can create a bubble. And they even called it a campus, right? So guys won't necessarily be quarantined in a room. They'll be able to obviously, get tested. And as long as everybody passes the test or is negative on the test, people can kind of walk freely around the bubble that they're creating, whether that's Disney World or wherever it is that's, in Vegas, if they want to do it that way. But it'd be interesting. Man. At the end of the day, we all want some basketball back. And if that comes back, I'll definitely watch on TV, even if there's no crowd allowed. It'll help us put a cap on the season. It was a great season up until that. People want to get a resolution on it. And personally, I don't think there's going to be any asterisks. There's been some debates about if there's going to be an asterisk, but at the end of the day, everybody's dealing with the same situation. The champion is going to be the champion, just like LeBron in 2012 when he won his first chip. That was a shortened season, right? And nobody's coming back to that saying, there's an asterisk or it's not worth as much. At least not for that reason. It could be for the big three, but not because of the shortened season. But next on the agenda, the Raptors. There's been some some trade rumors. There's some three-team discussion. Well, not a discussion, but some rumors out there that the Raptors could potentially deal with the Sixers and the Golden State Warriors. Trade Lowry to Philly. Back to his hometown, and Ben Simmons would go to the Golden State Warriors, create the light skinned super team. And then the Raptors would eventually get the Warriors first round pick, which we're expecting it to be the number one overall pick. And with that, the Raptors would go ahead and draft LaMelo Ball, which is interesting because LaMelo Ball, he has the making to be to be a star player. Obviously, he's a 6'7" point guard. Right now, he plays in Australia, so he's playing against men. I don't know if there's a lot of stats on it, but from what I could see here, he's averaging 17 points a game. I think he's playing in the NBL Australia League for the Illawarra. I don't even know what team that is, but yeah, 17 points a game. Approximately close to 7 assists. He shoots about 72%. Free throw. He's only playing about 31 minutes a game, but that's really good for a guy his age to be playing against men and playing that many minutes. LaMelo Ball, he has a good size. I'm not mad about that move with the Raptors, and the fact that Masai Ujiri is scouting him. I have all the trust in the world in Masai, so I guess it kind of supports what I think of LaMelo Ball, which would be a young, tall, lengthy, dynamic point guard, which is pretty much the way the NBA is going now. The Raptors, unfortunately, like we have a history of having small ass point guards, right? Starting all the way back from Damon Stoudemire, Muggsy Bogues, Lowry, Van Fleet. I feel like we're always left with the leftovers, right? Not to disrespect any of those guys. Obviously a lot of them are great players, but it'll be nice to have a big point guard who could actually play both ends of the game, who could actually facilitate and take over games. That's something we haven't really had. We don't have a lot of experience with that in terms of our point guards. So I'm not mad at getting LaMelo Ball. It's obviously a move for the future. If it helps Philly out too, because Philly's in a win now mentality. So getting Lowry, championship point guard, would definitely help them. They can stretch the floor, allow Embiid to do his thing, and they don't have to worry about Ben Simmons, clogging everything else because he can't shoot, past a layup, right? And then obviously, we know why the Golden State Warriors would do this. They want Ben Simmons surrounded with shooters. Ben Simmons, he's a great facilitator and great defender, right? Can't shoot a lick, but in Golden State, he's surrounded by all-time shooters. So that'd be an interesting move. But going forward, it is just a rumor, but it is something that's it's worthy of being discussed, right? The Raptors are in a position to make some moves this offseason. So obviously we'll get there when we get there. Another one that was thrown around was getting Jamal Murray. Obviously Jamal Murray's Canadian. He's a player I like. I've seen him play for some of the summer games. Jamal Murray has some confidence, man. He's last year or this past season, he was averaging 18.8 points a game. About 5 assists, and he shoots what 35% from three, and about 45% from the field. So Jamal Murray's he's a good point guard. He's a gunner. He's a shoot first type of guy. He's Canadian. So again, it's all about Lowry's aging right now. We got to get what we can get for Lowry, get some value. I understand he's the heart and soul of the team, but again, we can't get emotional. If we can get something from Lowry, let's do it right now. And we wish him all the best. Obviously, Lowry's jersey would probably be retired in Toronto. That's not even a discussion. And I would actually love to get Jamal Murray. That's another thing that's been thrown around. But hey, I think people are having that discussion just because we don't have any basketball right now. But something we should be talking about in the off season, in the real off season, once the season over, if the season gets concluded. So we'll get there when we get there. Next thing on the list that I wanted to touch on real quick, there's also there's a Bleacher Report on the top five luckiest team in the last 5 or 6 years. That was some BS, man. I mean, if you guys listen to my last pod, you know that you know my feelings about that. So basically, they were out there, trying to rank the luckiest championship team, and obviously Bleacher Report is out of the U.S. So they're gonna put the Toronto Raptors at number one, which they did, obviously, saying that the Raptors were the luckiest team to win a championship. I guess in the last 5 6 years. And again, I'm not gonna spend too much time on that because you guys know my position. Um, they're gonna hate on the Raptors. They're gonna talk about Golden State and how they didn't have Kevin Durant. At the end of the day, man, the Raptors beat a championship team. But at the end of the day, Steph and Clay were pretty much there. So I'm not even gonna count that in terms of getting injured in the finals. Everybody's beat up. The Raptors were, they were beat up. Kawhi was definitely not at 100%. And to me, it was a valiant effort. The Raptors had, the Eastern Conference was the best conference, in the last decade. And yeah, the Raptors beat a championship team. Kevin Durant, the Warriors won a championship without Kevin Durant. So at the end of the day, the Raptors did the thing. They competed, and it wasn't an easy granted championship. Not like the one the Warriors were winning the last 2 years before that. So in my opinion, there's no way that's the luckiest championship. I think they had the 2015 Warriors number two on the list. Um, Number three, they had the 04-05 Spurs, the Miami Heat number four, the 2012-13 Miami Heat, and then they had the Spurs of 06-07. So again, these guys, they're just hating, man. That's it's a post that they quickly took off because they already knew they were gonna get some heat. So I'm not even gonna spend a lot more time on this. Lastly, just to close it off quickly, um, Game of Zones. That's another phenomenon. That's one thing that they actually did right. So Bleacher Report, for those of you who don't know, they've been releasing this spin-off of Game of Thrones, the popular show Game of Thrones. So they got their own version, Game of Zones, using some of the original storylines and kind of mixing it with the NBA storylines. So they've been going on for 7 seasons, and they finally came to an end. So I think earlier today they released the last episode, the season finale, what is it? We're at season 7, yeah, episode 4, and it was cool. It was cool. They um, they took a lot of aspects of the actual Game of Thrones finale, which was actually funny. Um, you know, Obviously in Game of Thrones, they were looking to crown a new king. And, we all know that LeBron's been dominating the league, so everybody expects him to be the king of the league. Obviously, for those of you, I don't want to, I want to put out a spoiler alert, but for those of you who saw the ending of Game of Thrones, you know that the person that they actually crowned was Bran, and Bran is actually, is a cripple. So nobody really expected him to be crowned, the king. And Game of Zones kind of spun off that, and made it so that Paul Pierce, who actually plays kind of like the role of Bran, Paul Pierce was pretty much the cripple. And then Game of Zones actually finished off by making him the GOAT, which is pretty much the greatest of all time. Making LeBron go crazy. They had some pretty cool punchlines. With regards to why Paul Pierce needs to be the greatest of all time. Obviously, he needs to have a good storyline. They talked about Paul Pierce's championship, the fact that he got stabbed, and then the fact that he called games. So that was hilarious, man. You guys should check that out. And it's funny because just a couple of days ago, Paul Pierce was making his case that LeBron wasn't on his top five list or top five greatest player of all time list, and he was making that case to Maria Taylor and Jalen Rose and Jay Williams on ESPN Countdown. So that just makes it even funnier. Game of Zones, it's a pretty good series. it came down to the final, to the season finale, and yeah, it was pretty dope. So you guys should check it out. But yeah, that's pretty much what I had so far. I'm just gonna cut this short. Wanted to release a quick update. Obviously, I've been out from the game for a while, but yeah, I'll try to make these releases a lot more frequent. But other than that, you know, make sure to catch me. Make sure to you can spot me on pretty much Instagram. You can at Maliway27, Twitter Maliway27. Again, you can find the podcast on Spotify, the Post Up Podcast, or you can just look up Maliway. You should be able to find this. But yeah, man. Other than that, we'll keep you posted as soon as we get more news. And until then, thanks for listening. Peace.